Hi, everyone. I am with a sentient being, and that is Fluffy. Yes, it's a cat, but a cat, a dog, a zebra are all sentient beings around the whole planet. We are sentient beings. We feel love, we feel pain, we feel cold, we feel heat. These creatures and all sentient beings on Earth feel what we feel in many, many ways. And tonight, as I go into part 2 with Adam Burns in New York City, picking up from last week, there will be a part of our interview in which he goes to the heart of one of the discrepancies on our planet. We are Homo sapiens sapien. We call ourselves human beings. And we live on this planet with so much other life that makes it possible for us to be alive and living on this planet. And they are sentient beings. And humanity, in order to survive, should love and respect those other sentient beings. But it appears we are at a time of so many dangerous changes, and that one of the issues of being alive on Earth now is, will the climate sustain us? And will the sentient beings that share this planet with us be with us for decades to come, or not? I'm going to let this beautiful sentient being down so that I can pick up my script and share with you the ongoing discussion that I have been having with Adam in New York. But I would like to lead off because it was such a fascinating and beautiful headline this week. And it is in astronomy news, this beautiful Juno spacecraft photo. And can you see on the left, there's this massive black circular shadow of Gannymede, the largest moon in our solar system that orbits Jupiter. This image was taken on February 25th, 2022, by NASA's Juno spacecraft observing from only about 44,000 miles above Jupiter's cloud tops. Gigantic Ganymede's big round shadow was cast from the big moon that orbits about 666,000 miles from Jupiter. It is my understanding from more than one aerospace source that our government knows that Gannymede has long been a base for at least one extraterrestrial intelligence that monitors Earth and our solar system from a base deep inside this big, huge moon. Tonight, as I continue my interview with Adam Burns, I remind you that he is a professional novelist and graphic designer in New York City and a longtime UFO experiencer with extraterrestrial intelligences that range from teal blue skin beings to small grays to a tall gray to a praying mantis who seems in charge of meetings with Adam. Adam Burns says he has never met a tall white or Nordic, but he describes being taught by the praying mantis about why humans on Earth are in a kind of dark yin and light yang arena, where opposing extraterrestrial forces have battled for millennia over both control of beautiful laboratory Earth and the fate of current Homo sapiens sapien, who are the product of genetic manipulation in already evolving primates by at least 3 different other intelligences: the reptilians, the Nordics, and the many types of grays that include a lot of artificial intelligence mixed with other organic beings. Last fall, in September 2021, Adam was featured in a new book entitled The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact, copyright 2021 by Lester Velez, chairman and co-founder of OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. The OPUS goal is to provide help with hypnosis regressions and other support from men, women, and children who need to talk about their dreams or waking life encounters with what Les Velez calls, quote, the unknown other. Les Velez says they have tried to make reaching out for help easier with one website address, opusnetwork.org. There you will also see a link from Les's new book that came out last year directly and is on Amazon.com where it can be ordered. In the book, Les featured 33 human abduction cases that began with then 53-year-old Adam Burns from New York City, who grew up in the UK, 25 minutes north of London in Hertfordshire. Adam felt like he was living 2 lives sometimes, being human on Earth, but visiting other intelligences who taught him about the universe and other dimensions. Adam also lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he first saw a gray being on an Indian reservation. And by 1999, he had earned an associate degree in literature in films, and 4 years later, in 2003, he graduated from Brooklyn College in New York with honors and another degree in literature, art, and film. Now, 54 years old, Adam is a graphic designer in Manhattan and is finishing a novel about non-human hybrids on Earth, a subject that we hopefully will talk about in a future Earthfiles YouTube. Last week, I talked with Adam about what he has learned from the praying mantis, about the ancient reptilian humanoids that are so hostile to humans, that have allegedly been based underground on Earth for centuries, referring to the ancient reptilians. And Adam showed this world map illustration with green-colored reptilian underground base locations around the world that he has been shown during communications with ETs, including the tall praying mantis insect associated with a tall ancient gray being and smaller gray artificial intelligence androids, teal blue beings, and beings of light. These are all illustrations that Adam has made for Earthfiles, and this on the screen right now was last October of 2021. He is in an ongoing evolution with these beings, and he has now updated, as of April 2022, his new version of the details of the praying mantis, who has had so much impact on Adam's life and thinking. The praying mantis has shown Adam mind images of ancient Tyrannosaurus rex type reptilians and snake-like humanoids that are hostile to humans and have long based deep underground for centuries. One of the common descriptions by eyewitnesses who come face to face with these humanoid reptilians is how they can pop out of visibility in an instant, literally disappear, while other eyewitnesses say they have been seen a parent or a good friend looking like their normal human selves right before a sudden pop-in or pop-out change to a, quote, standing up lizard or crocodile or T-Rex. Based on his nearly 5 decades of being taken by the praying mantis into UFOs and educated about other dimensions and multiple life forms in this universe, now 54-year-old Adam Burns told me this.
One thing I'd like to say about the reptilians is we are in a third density dimensional level, or third density frequency. And in that density, we can't see reptilians unless they show themselves to us. And that's why they're shapeshifters, and that's how they manipulate things, getting us to do something. And it's really the reptilians. They can easily dip into our dimension, manipulate us, anything they want.
Part of my confusion is that we started the discussion about the map of all the deep underground bases that reptilians have on this planet that are hostile to us, who want Earth without humans. So why would there be those T-Rex type reptilians based on Earth instead of staying in the fourth dimension? Why do they want a third dimension Earth without third dimensional humans?
They don't want a third dimension. They live in the fourth dimension. They just want these pesky humans that live in the third dimension, destroying their environment. They just want us gone. But they're here at the same time as us, and they always have been. They were here before us. We're destroying the planet ourselves with selfishness. Selfishness was a word that came up and seemed to stand out in this last session, that a lot of this really couldn't happen without human selfishness. You can't blame it all on the reptilians. We need to be helped to survive.
If the praying mantis is successful in trying to evolve Homo sapiens sapien, what happens if humans do win out and we become the dominant conscious presence on Earth? What happens to the reptilians in their desire to be the only ones on Earth, and that this battle over Earth could be settled in favor of humans? What would happen to the reptilians?
They would no longer be able to harm us. They've done such awful things to us throughout millennia.
And they would remain in fourth dimension?
Yes, until they were ascending themselves into a higher state.
Has the praying mantis ever put in your mind, telepathically or by image, where you got like looking through his mind's eye of how this whole huge universe of maybe 12 dimensions, and we're only in one, how it came together, and why are we in a dimension in which yin and yang, the black seems to be versus the white everywhere?
Yeah, that's a great question. There seems to be several constants throughout all these different societies, no matter how advanced they are. And one constant is the yin and yang division between all thinking and self-thinking.
Why are we in a universe where everything has to eat something else in order to survive? That seems to sort of reinforce the whole selfish versus the group.
It's brutal down here. Almost everything gets eaten alive, but it isn't like that everywhere. I asked them that one, is it all like this, where everything is basically killing each other? And they said, no, but it does happen in other places. And I said, so there are places where it doesn't happen? And they said, yes, there are places that evolved entirely without carnage, entirely without domination. So there's a mixture, and you can only hope that over time that the good wins out.
Did the praying mantis ever communicate with you about this question, are we in a holographic universe, a light projection from another dimension, and that there is a direct reason for why this particular universe has the ingredients of the yin and the yang and the issue of the dark versus light, as if this is a training ground that has been created specifically to pit all kinds of species against each other with the challenge of will they evolve eventually to loving each other?
I don't get that feeling from talking to them that we're part of some higher species game, like a video game
Or a holographic university?
and they watch it all play out. When they talk about the source, and they showed me the source one time, they're not talking about a benevolent God or a vindictive God. They're talking about a creative force energy that is in all of us. And it's like we are literally made of it, and we can call upon it, call upon the power of the universe itself. And it's very spiritual, and it's magnificent. But it's not a conscious entity that's like playing with us. That's what I've been shown. I stood in front of this mantid, and it sort of walked me to another place. And then I saw that I was a light being, and the ends of my hands and feet just tapered off to nothing. But I was human in my own form, because I guess that's just how I see myself. And the top of my head just tapered off to nothing. But the light was like a creamy white light, quite soft. And within it were flecks of irregular rectangles and squares, and just specks that were of a brighter white light just moving around within it continuously, a little bit like opal, except it was all moving. And that's when I saw myself as a light being. And then in front of me, there was this other light being that looked exactly like me, identical. And they said, this is the source. The feeling was enormous, and the feeling was love, and the feeling was tremendous power that I was in the presence of, but it was also just like me. And that wasn't to say that I was in any way powerful or magnificent. I was just, I happened to be this light being like this other light being. And it was a way of showing me that the force that drives the universe is in all of us and is equal to all of us. We are that power. We have the power to change our world if we would apply our minds to it. If you look at the cruelty to animals who are sentient beings, it's law in the EU and several other countries that animals are sentient. And we should all be well aware of that by now. But what we do to sentient beings is unbelievable. And if you would actually take a look, like I do, animal rights, if any person was to go and just take a look, you instantly recoil and go, oh my God, how can we do this? I don't want to have any part of that, because we're born good. But we're conditioned through our cultures to be this way. And that's very much the reptilian influence, but it's also the influence of the various power people that run things on this earth, and all of the cultural frameworks that we all grow up in. They make us this way. We're conditioned to laugh at UFOs and to laugh at people who talk about aliens.
And do you think it is under the influence of the reptilians who are based here underground on the planet, who want Earth for themselves, and they keep us fighting each other?
Yes.
And it would explain why the history of power brokers on this planet have always kept Homo sapiens sapien, the created humanoid, in the dark, dumb and blind, never telling the truth.
Yeah, because it's just like the Catholic religion in the Middle Ages, keeping everything in Latin, and then the churches of England doing the same, because they didn't want the common man to be able to read it.
And it's why I've always said we humans are an abused species, because we have never been told the truth, that the power brokers, the non-humans, everyone who has had power on the planet, their power was based in the connection of keeping humans dumb and blind.
Yes, and also our brains have been adapted so that we don't use them all. And why is that?
And your experience now with the praying mantis, as you have evolved, this is your most recent hypnosis session that we have been discussing this content. You honestly feel that the praying mantis wants you, and you representing humanity, to wake up, to become knowledgeable, and to evolve to another dimension.
Yes, exactly. That's what they want. They're trying to help us. They want us to talk about this. We've just got to get this out into the open.
Isn't then one of the contradictions that, according to Genesis, the Garden of Eden, where the first humans were, the teacher was a viper, a reptilian, a snake, and that was the teacher of humans. And then later on in the evolution of time, we're talking about how reptilians want Earth without humans and that reptilians are the ones that are hurting humans?
There are texts that predate the Bible, a lot of them. A whole bunch of things that ended up in the Bible, but only because they were existing in other stories before. At our creation, the beings that created us were reptilian. And it's my theory that they were like the second group of reptilians I was shown that are more snake-like with much smaller faces, depicted in the statuary from Mesopotamian times, from Babylonia and Ur, in what is now Iraq. Those beings that created us, initially we were created as a slave class, and then one of the scientists who created us basically took pity on us and tried to help us and teach us everything from metallurgy to so many different things that basically they wanted us to grow like them. So the knowledge of good and evil, serpent in the garden, and the compound was called Edin, with an I, E-D-I-N. And that's all in these Sumerian tablets, that there were beings from the skies that lived there, did experiments, and they described all the different experiments that went wrong, beings that couldn't walk, beings that couldn't hold their bladder, beings that couldn't reproduce, until they got it right. Those beings that created us, one fraction of them wanted to help us, and that knowledge of good and evil was science. They wanted us to grow like them. All they were doing was genetic gene splicing and cloning. We've done it to sheep. You know, it's not that far-fetched. We could create, if we felt it was ethically okay, we could create another genus right now. We have the science to do it. So this isn't like aliens coming down and zapping lasers and doing Star Wars stuff. This is really scientists who just created a slave class, and then some of those scientists tried to help us become like them and learn the tools. So the knowledge of good and evil from the serpent in the garden was the reptilian who was trying to help us, and the God of the Old Testament, two groups of reptilians that made us. One wanted to help us and one wanted to harm us. The ones that wanted to harm us think that way. They really are dynastic and cruel.
And has what you just said been sort of shown to you, taught to you by the praying mantis?
Some of it I figured out myself, but they've helped me a lot. And so I've read like 71 books now on this, just trying to research where we've come from and what's really going on. You have to look at multiple sources, and in the end you start to see a picture forming, a pattern. You would have a history of a dominant being that created this slave class and then suppressed it once it became too liberated and developed, and then another group within that ruling class who tried to help humanity and were destroyed for it, and the darker forces won, made reptilians here just want us gone. So it all just sort of knits together, really.
Yeah. Have you asked the praying mantis what reincarnation is? Why are souls recycled? What is controlling the recycling? And where do souls from humans go in between lives, dimensions? Has the praying mantis shown you any of that?
I was shown that there was like a thread of gold light that just goes from infinity and goes off into space. And there's like wavelengths, like blips on it. They just appear and they stay there, and that's a life. And then there's another one, and then there's another one. And we just continue lives. And they have shown me earlier reincarnation. I was somebody who didn't believe in reincarnation, but definitely is part of not just an ideology, but literally it's like the air you breathe, the food you eat. It's literally science. They don't make a differentiation between spirituality and science because they understand how everything works, so everything is scientific. And a lot of things that we would think of as mystical and psychic, it's just science to them because they know how to do it and know how to manipulate atoms to move objects. It's just nuts and bolts stuff.
Okay, but if reincarnation is the recycling of souls, then why would it not be evolutionary as a force? Meaning, if I am a human being in 2022, and that I have been through different human bodies, let's say for some period of time going back to hominids, how could all of the truth about reptiles, power brokers, keeping me and my species dumb and blind on Earth, I would know all of that, wouldn't I, eventually? Wouldn't reincarnation be a force that would reveal the truth?
Well, it would be nice if it would, because we would be on a path to coalescing towards a greater understanding together. But we're not allowed to have that freedom of thought. Our brains have been engineered to operate in a certain way and cobbled by our makers. And also, just the nature of the third density, we have to fight hard to get to a higher consciousness.
Related to our challenge as humans to understand other dimensions, multiple universes, and the things that we can't really touch and hold on, but that may be more important to everything that is happening on Earth than we realize. And I'm holding up what to me is one of the most important books that I have ever read. And this was first published in 1980. The title is Wholeness and the Implicate Order by physicist David Bohm. When I read this book, it was a revelation then, and I have continued to go back to the book. And the reason that I am segueing is that the whole issue of other intelligences, some saying that they have vested interests in humanity and want to see us evolve, others that seem to be in conflict with us, which is at the heart of Adam's information from the praying mantis. There have been other reports that have come to me and to others from our government or from agents who work for the government or military or aerospace. In general, there is a point of view that whatever we are told, whether it is in abductions or in meetings officially, that we are never getting a straight story either from advanced intelligences. And it always goes to a question, what is the reason that other intelligences would have a vested interest in humans on planet Earth, whether we evolve or not? When I was working on Glimpses Volume 2, I had an extraordinary exchange that came to me from people who were working for the NSA and the DIA. And it started with a very dear friend of mine, Ray Boucher. He has been a minister in Nebraska for most of his professional career and a brilliant investigator of things related to UFOs that he got into. And as I was working on this book, he called me one day and said that he had been contacted by two men who showed identification from the Department of Defense in Washington, D.C. And it's my understanding one was DIA and one was NSA, Defense Intelligence Agency and National Security Agency. And the two agents wanted to discuss Ray Boucher's research in the field of eschatology, which is sort of the apocalyptic end of the world, and having to do with judgments from higher orders of what is happening on Earth. And the two men had heard about my book, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1, Facts and Eyewitnesses, and they asked Ray if he could get one of my books to them. And all of that occurred. And I received on a floppy disk in the mail from Ray some of their comments upon reading my book, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1. And they began, dated June 21st, 1994. Your book is an excellent, thought-provoking work. Overall, many salient points are covered quite well. Following are some notes for your consideration. Study David Bohm's Wholeness and the Implicate Order. Much insight into the mechanics of the non-human entities can be gained from study of his ideas. He is on target with his concepts, and our program is attempting, we think, to exploit them. Perhaps a better description might be that the mechanics of the non-human entity's ability to interact with our physical reality is what David Bohm's work details, and the contact with the non-human entities has occurred and will continue to occur, regardless of our understanding of the mechanism of the contact. The ultimate diversionary tactic will begin to increase in frequency, degrees of high strangeness, and in an increasing visibility of UFOs to greater numbers of observers. The non-human entities that we are dealing with in our psi mind control weapons development, and who are apparently allowing themselves to be used for a time, are neither benevolent nor neutral. And that was an issue that they took to Ray Boucher, and we had hundreds of discussions. How do we humans, who are like babies in terms of the technologies that are demonstrated by the non-humans that are able to go through space tunnels and cover light years in seconds, minutes, or days, and Earth that has been kept dumb and blind, as Adam and I talked about, that the distance between our being able to understand what is happening is a large one. And it is important to understand that in this huge landscape that includes what appears to be a truly educational and supportive communication from beings to Adam Burns in New York and to many others, that a lot of people, whether they're working for the government or whether they're working for military or aerospace or wherever, are very confused by many mixed signals. And here we sit in the end of April of 2022, and we still have not had any straightforward discussion and communication from our government saying we know that we're not alone in this universe, and that vast truth continues to be blocked off. And that's why I wanted to just share with you, coming out of what I think is a really important discussion with Adam Burns, to introducing to those of you who have not read Wholeness and the Implicate Order by David Bohm. It is truly, truly a valuable book. That in Glimpses Volume 2, acknowledging all of this in pages about what happened between the writers and Ray Boucher and me, and I show the entire transcripts of what they wrote. This is part of what I learned during that dialogue. David Bohm was professor of theoretical physics at Birkbeck College in London. And in his book, Professor Bohm discussed a cosmology of multidimensional frequencies that resonate with each other and in which any element, from a photon, an atom, to a star or human being, has, quote, enfolded within itself the totality of the universe, close quote. That's one heck of a sentence, and that is related directly to the dialogue that Adam Burns had with the praying mantis, who then showed him the being of light and another being of light, and that the being of light, as Adam understood it, was, in a sense, all that there was, all that there is, and that all the beings of light are behind all of the matter world that we're in. Quote from Professor Bohm. One of the most important implications of the theory of relativity is that physical time is in fact relative in the sense that it may vary according to the speed of the observer. This variation is significant only as we approach the speed of light and is quite negligible in the domain of ordinary experience. Since the quantum theory implies that elements that are separated in space are generally non-causally and non-locally related projections of a higher dimensional reality, one must then go on to the consideration of time as a projection of multi-dimensional reality into a sequence of moments. Time as a projection of multi-dimensional reality might also mean time can be traveled, time can be captured, manipulated, and played back in ways still incomprehensible to human science. And I'm sharing these pieces because it is all still so complex. And yet, I have talked with people who are very well aware that we do have technology in which we are going out in space tunnels to other solar systems, so we are collaborating with some of the species out there that can do that. And that Adam Burns represents a human being on Earth who, for most of his life, has been having very, very profound discussions with a variety of beings, and that he and I and so many others feel that we are at this very important crossroads where for humans to evolve, for humans to get past and collaborate with the climate, to not be undone by political confrontations, because we need to see life and sentient beings as with a lens that we have to be able to go and grow on this planet with much more knowledge about what is really happening. And that when it comes to the varieties of non-human intelligences that seem to be reaching out to more and more people, if we are not educated, if we are not guided by real, truthful information from our government, from science, from medical people, that there really are other intelligences, then we are forever going to be an abused species, kept in the dark, that weakens us. And I wanted to put these pieces together tonight because I think that Adam Burns is having an extremely important dialogue with, let's say, intelligences that have a long exposure to not just this dimension, but to other dimensions. And there's, just like David Bohm describes, and others, other dimensions is one of the keys to our beginning to truly understand the universe that we are in. And I have been told that the truth is that there are 12, and that the majestic 12, the number 12, MJ12, is because our government also began to learn information about beings that were coming and going, but they would pop in and out, and eventually they would come to learn that the popping in and out of craft at what appears to be instantaneous speeds is a direct transition from this dimension to another. And that's how complex and how important this is to learn about the truth. And who are the beings? And why would they care whether Homo sapiens sapien on Earth evolves to get to the fifth dimension, which is exactly what the praying mantis has said to Adam several times? Why would they have vested interest in seeing this species on this planet move from this dimension to another? Those are the mysteries that haunt me and keep me wanting to do this work. And knowing that these discussions are difficult when people have still not been fully apprised of what is happening and still think that the cartoons about extraterrestrials are cartoons to be laughed at, when perhaps our very lives, our very future of our planet may rely on when do we make the public handshake with other beings that appear to care about whether Homo sapiens sapien makes it into the next century or not. It's what fuels my wanting to come together with you guys on Wednesday nights and have these discussions. And I hope that you will let me know if you have found all of this to be not only of interest, but that you find this really important and valuable because it's not being exchanged and discussed much anywhere else. So let me know. Let me know if you would like me to continue periodically to do these sort of deeper dives with a person like Adam, a physicist, a scientist. I am going to, in the future, be doing some things on abductees that I think you'll find interesting. But I was so provoked by my interview that went for 2.5 hours with Adam, and that I hope that he and I will do another 2.5 hours when he does another hypnosis session after having another interaction with beings that seem so varied, and yet he is interacting and coming back to communicate. And it's sort of always been a dream of mine to live and see Earth humans being able to communicate with other beings in this universe that don't want to hurt us, but want to see all sentient beings, whether it's Fluffy at the beginning, all of you, all of the Earth life, and beyond, thrive and evolve. And that evolution in and out of other dimensions is one of the keys, but we really don't fully understand. So on that note, thank you. And Ian, where are we in comments, chats?
Wow, Linda, that was amazing. It's very deep tonight. The audience are with you on that. They're giving me thumbs up and saying that they want you to go deeper into this and to hear more. So we're all on board with you on that one. They love your deep dives and they want to hear more.
Good. I'm glad that we have that audience, and I hope that audience keeps growing, because there's a lot in me that I would like to do. And I have some good news, Ian, before we switch over to questions and comments. I have received the information from the printer that Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1, Facts and Eyewitnesses, the new printing, that they will be here this weekend. And an Alien Harvest that is also in reprints. It's been wonderful that the books have sold out, but in the age of COVID, it has turned out to be so difficult to get them reprinted. So I'm grateful. And an Alien Harvest is scheduled to arrive in late May. So Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1 this weekend, and next month, an Alien Harvest. And so many of you have sent me emails and said, please tell me how I get your new printings on your books. So I want to tell everyone there's always one place. The prices don't change. There's shipping, but I hear people tell me that they have seen one of my books for $2,500 on eBay. And I go, my gosh, well, I'm glad somebody thinks that they're valuable. I do too think they're valuable, but no, nothing has changed on the prices. And they are at the earthfiles.com website. And on the right side, there's a column, and right near the top, it says Earthfiles Shop. You just click on that, comes into all of my work, and that's where these new reprintings can be ordered. And I'm so glad that finally the books will all be available, and the documentaries are all available from Antarctica to Göbekli. And the DVDs, you can buy them as DVDs from me, and they also are in Vimeo and Amazon, right, Brad, where they was streaming. So we've got all of that in now. You can read about that in the Earthfiles shop. Okay, Ian, I transition to you.
Okay, Linda. Well, I'm just going to do the super chats, then we can get down to business.
All
so
right.
Here we go. Moonbird, Shane Payne, Traz, Jessica Rodriguez, Sexy Sadie, Linda Myers, Dorothy Austin, Stan Koswowski, Transgressive Chemist. He's super chatted twice tonight. Teresa Bass, TYCKARE, Mark Petrie, Stephen Adamski, Daniel Gomez, Nathan C., and Kathy Awansky.
Oh my gosh, thank you everybody so much. It takes quite a bit to keep this all going, so I am so grateful to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know we started late because what we're learning is that when I do a longer piece, this was 15 minutes and 11 seconds, like a mini documentary, then for some reason, what's called the congealing of the show in the computer so that we can show it to you, it takes way longer. Every time I get past like 10 minutes, 11 minutes, that's why a lot of my segments have been 10 minutes, 11 minutes, is because we can get up to that amount and then it will come together in the computer in normal time, and we stay on time. And as soon as I get anywhere above that, like this was 15 minutes and 11 seconds, we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait for the computer to, I call it congealing, all of the parts that turn it into a film. That's what happened tonight. That's why we are late. But I'm going to say, I hope you agree with me, I found it important to do that at that length because there's so much. And if we are late sometimes, it might be for that reason, and so forgive us. And that's tonight. So I'm going to go, if it's okay with you and Eric and Ian and Brad, I'm going to go another, Ian, 15 minutes for Q&A. Okay?
Okay, Linda. Let's go straight on with a comment, first of all, from Transgressive Chemist. He says, as a scientist who had an experience with other intelligences, I totally believe this. Yes, this is anecdotal, but there is so much more to be learned.
Yes, absolutely. And if we closed our minds and said, this is impossible, I don't believe there are other dimensions, we can't travel in time, no, we're moving out into space. We already have Space Force out in this Milky Way galaxy. You can take that to the bank. And we must try to educate each other as profoundly as possible for those who have had firsthand, because the power brokers and the governments are not doing it. They keep sort of tantalizing but we're not getting straight answers. And so I appreciate that. Thank you, Ian.
Okay, here's a question from Dorothy Austin. She says, are humans not already evolving into the fourth dimension, so we will be with the reptilians?
That is an interesting question. Adam Burns, if you are there and listening, that is a question. If we evolved into the fourth dimension and the reptilians are in the fourth dimension, would we then have the same conflict there that we're having in the third dimension? And it sort of goes along with one of the questions that I asked Adam, because at first I was assuming that the reptilians are wanting Earth in all dimensions, and they want humans out of the third. And Adam said, no, they want to stay in the fourth, but that it is our matter world environment in the third dimension, that the reptilians in the fourth dimension dip into all of the time. And they want to be able to do that without human interference and humans competing for resources. And clearly, none of us know how to have this discussion. What does that mean, that the reptilians stay in the fourth dimension, but they want to harvest from the third dimension? And what does it mean that the praying mantis would like to see humans evolve to the fifth dimension? And not only Adam, but a few other people that I have talked to this year and last year who work in government context, are reluctant to put their face and their name on television or in a podcast. But this is not the first time that I have heard this statement having to do with fifth dimension, and that the fifth dimension, sounds strange, but I'm just going to say what's been said to me. The fifth dimension is supposed to be perhaps the most populated dimension. If there are 12 and 1 and 2 are just part of the fabric of having 3, we're in the third dimension, and the praying mantis would like to see us get to the fifth dimension, bypassing the fourth, where the reptilians are, 6th, 7th, 8th, up to 12. I don't know of anyone. If you guys do, please let me know. Put a comment in the chat for Ian to get in touch with me. Has anybody ever heard of anything with sentience, consciousness, what they would be like in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th dimensions, if the cosmos with a capital C is 12 dimensions? And we're in a matter universe in the third dimension. So I understand that was a good question, but what is the relationship between dimensions, and why would the reptilians be able to even assume that they would have some right to get rid of humans in the third dimension, even if they are in the fourth? One thing occurred to me today, and I will just raise this. If reptilians, which they did, the dinosaurs in that entire age, dominated Earth completely, then 65, 66 million years ago, an asteroid, allegedly, from outer space, allegedly, comes and slams into what we know of as the Gulf of Mexico, leaves the big Chicxulub crater there. And most of life, surface life, on the Earth is killed off, including all of the dinosaurs and other reptilians, but the dinosaurs Except it occurred to me today, thinking about the interview with Adam Burns and sentient beings. What if there were a lot of dinosaurs that built underground? And what if those reptilian dinosaurs were really upset and angry at what happened because they assumed that maybe they were in touch with grays or something, that the asteroid could have been moved into another dimension or timeline. And maybe the reptilians had been holding a grudge against everybody because maybe they assumed that 65 million years ago they were deliberately murdered to get them off of the planet, and it has been a sore point with them all this time, and that it is so complex and confusing because why would there be 3 different competing extraterrestrial groups over this planet for 270 million years, as the DIA guy told me in December of 1999? Why? Why would there be that kind of long-term conflict? It seems like it would have to be a fight over something huge. Well, maybe from the reptilian point of view, the wipeout of dinosaurs on Earth was a military act by 1 or 2 of the groups that they still compete with. We weren't here. There were no humans on Earth then. We come way much later. So why would the reptilians have this big grudge against humanity? Unless there is something else in our history that relates specifically, maybe, to the wipeout. So doing this work, it begins to make you think about terms and sizes of timelines much bigger than we are taught in school. So I don't know what the answer is to what would happen in the dimension, what would happen with reptilians if humans went to the 4th and the 5th. I don't have any idea really. But if any of you are physicists, and some of you do communicate with me, and you have inside information on this whole issue of other dimensions, the issue of existences of life in different dimensions that might relate to the evolution of the soul that was represented in Adam's work by those white light beings, and the very important statement that was made to Adam from the praying mantis about those light beings, that they were all, that in looking at those white light beings, that was the all. That everything that is, has come from, evolves back, that reincarnation is real, and that has come up also in alleged dialogues with gray extraterrestrial biological entities since the crashes in the 40s, the exact same questions and the exact same answers. To say that it is confusing is an understatement, but that's why we have to keep trying to understand. Okay, I took a long time, I know, but that was a really important question. Let's go for 1 or 2 more, and I'll try to do it short.
Just before we do, Linda, we're standing at 206,984 subscribers. We only need another 16 to get to 207. Could you tell people to please subscribe and also to like us?
Yes, if you are here and you resonate with wanting to learn real truth, please click on that subscribe button, and we'll go through 207,000 now. We would go to.
We're just below 207,000.
Yeah. So click on the red subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us. And for people tonight, if you like this sort of deeper dive, click on that like button.
Here's a question from Fallon. She says, Linda has put an emphasis recently on what we humans have souls, and how the Greys are interested in what that soul entails. Linda seems to have some religious views or talks of the divine field. Does she think humans are singular in possessing a soul? If we are biological, genetic lab rats, how did we end up with the souls? And how would the ETs know where that soul comes from? And if some think that we were genetically created by them?
I'll give a short answer tonight because there's much more to do about the issue of soul energy. But when Adam did the drawings of those white glowing, as he said, they had light moving around all of them. And that was a real challenge, I would think, to illustrate. It was when the praying mantis was trying to communicate to Adam, what is the all behind everything? And this is what the praying mantis showed Adam. These white, glowing, glittering, energetic bodies, and that Adam realized and recognized that his was like all the others, that there was something about the communication being. It doesn't matter whether you are a reptile, whether you are a Nordic, whether you are a human, whether you are a gray, and the list goes on, the teals, the oranges, and on and on and on. The universe probably has thousands and thousands and thousands of forms, the third dimension matter. But that what is important, and I've referred to it as my own intuitive feeling about the soul. I think of the soul as the quantum energy packet that every sentient, organic life, organic being must have. So no, I do not think souls are confined to Homo sapiens sapien on Earth at all. But it is a profound mystery. It's easy to say reincarnation, the recycling of souls, is the machinery of this universe. That is a direct quote from a gray being picked up at a crash that was near Roswell in the year 1949, was taken to Los Alamos, was kept with the Air Force captain who got the being's telepathic thoughts, was the only human at the crash site who got the telepathic pain. That's what the Air Force captain felt pain, and then saw the images in his mind coming from the mind of one of the beings in the crash. And then he was able to tell his superior officer what he was getting in his mind. And they didn't judge him, they didn't dismiss him. They said, then you are to stay with this being, and you are, for the rest of your military career, you are assigned with this being. You will live at Los Alamos, and we will do a Q&A with you translating from the being. And that I understand they did that every day until June 18th, 1952, when that being died of unknown causes. And one of the questions and answers that was sent to me in a, I guess you would say, a document about that ongoing Q&A with that gray being, is reincarnation real? And the answer that came back and was recorded on film is my understanding. Reincarnation, the recycling of souls, is the machinery of this universe. It may not be the machinery of another universe, but the answer was it's the machinery of this universe. And that is really important to keep in mind. David Bohm, other physicists, have entertained the possibility that just like we have 3 trillion galaxies in this one universe, what if there are 3 trillion universes? infinity has no end. Okay, Ian, did I wrap it up?
Yeah, this is deep. So we don't have much time for some of these great questions tonight, but we'll have to come back and revisit some of them next time.
Okay, this is a promise. Let's do this. Gather all of tonight's questions seriously, and I will do for sure 30 or 40 minutes next week. And the week, I will go through all of these questions that you send me, and I'll divide them up for a longer segment on each of the upcoming programs for as long as it takes. And that way I can do news and I can do a shorter subject. But your questions are so important. I want you to know that. And I know that sometimes my answers are long, but you guys, I don't know how to answer in 1 or 2 sentences most of your questions because we are in a complicated universe, and we have been kept in the dark. And what's happening here is we're beginning to get honest insights, and the more insights I get and share with you, it seems to me, every insight billows out to 100 more questions. And that is what I love. I love going to, you get to a wall of questions, and then you dive into those questions, and then you report about that. And that's sort of the way that I think of this gathering with you. And so, Ian, gather up all those questions. I'll start putting them together over the next few weeks. And I very much look forward to hearing from all of you about tonight's show and telling you that if we're in the 3rd dimension and on our way to the 5th dimension, what I have learned in the 3rd dimension on Earth so far, and I'm not sure how many lives, is that the warmth on the inside that love brings can even heal people in Ukraine. It is a healing force, and whoever, whatever, is responsible for allowing sentient beings to love each other in a warmth, in a recognition that we are a vital life form. And man, I'm rooting for humans to survive and evolve and get out into this universe and to another dimension and keep doing the Earthfiles YouTube channel. Love you. See you next week.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC, and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.